here is the next rat rod project. I've already built this 212, so it's going to be plug and play. But I've got to fab up the swing arm and everything else. We're cutting this off with an angle grinder. Down here, gotta weld on our gussets. Right about there, or even up a little more. Gotta get a bracket built under the seat for our shock. Also, this frame's so old it's been brazed and not welded, so we're gonna clean up a lot of that. A new seat for it. Gonna build a seat bracket right there. Changed it over to 40 chain. This had a baby little sprocket on it before. And then we're gonna fab up our brake. We're gonna have a disc brake. So we'll fab something up right here. Now, we do have a Go Power Sports front end as well, but we're going to see if we can fit on there the shock front end. We'll see if that'll work or not. This is a pretty old style frame. So, we did the front end. It's a little bent, nothing we can't fix. Brand new cables and everything as well. This is just a mock-up so you guys can see what, this is the goal. See if we can get to this goal. Cut slots down both sides, then we'll flatten it out later. Main goal is to get this off. Alright, I just got covered in metal bits, but we got it. This is the aftermath. Didn't go through on this side. We went through a baby bit on this side. I'll just weld it up though. We'll get this nice and flat and round. This thing weighs half as much as the whole frame weighs. Alright, so now we're gonna make some progress on this thing. Got our rear end starting to get set up. Good solid swing arm from either a dirt bike or a pocket bike, I can't tell. We're gonna have to cut this guy off right here. Cool thing is the mounts that I bought to make this brake work on this swing arm are pretty nifty. I don't think anyone's used one of these yet. So fit on there, and then your brake bolts right into it. It's the same bolt pattern as one of these like Motovox brakes. So this should, you know what though? This is backwards. This is backwards from what I need. Didn't think about that. We'll see. I've got another one of these anyway that's red, rather than black. There's that. See, that bolt patterns are the same. I got ordered the wrong side. Different brake, opposite direction. Wrong damn direction. See how this looks like it's gonna do. This looks like it might work pretty well. First problem is it's not gonna fit on our axle. We have to make this a little wider, which is easy enough. Alright, just hit it with a hammer and wind it a little so it fits. Now, lock this back up. See if this is going to work. It's looking like it will. Okay. So this will have to bend flat, which is easy to do. Then, this is holding it way too far over. So we'll have to make some spacers, which is fine. And that will be our brake setup right there. Maybe we can not drop that. You know what? Kind of like that, because then we can put the tensioner behind this, which we also have for shits and giggles. Oh, how beautiful that fits. Okay, so then make it go all the way forward. Yes, now it's gonna sit on there better. Alright, so next step we're doing is we're gonna weld the brackets on here so we can get this swing arm attached. Then it'll start really taking shape and making more sense. We've gotten a lot done here on this swing arm now. So I actually made my own bushing. This is a washer with a piece of tube welded to it to adapt the hole in the plate size to the swing arm bolt. Swing arm bolt's a little smaller than the ID, the inside diameter of the hole here. So I made like a step down almost, if you want to call it that, for people who are really getting what I'm talking about. I'll show you guys that later. I might have to make some more. Oddly enough, this tube's the exact size as this rear plate hole. For our rear, this fits pretty well. Might have to make a adaptation. I'm using the GPS front end. That's kind of universal. You're just kind of going to make it work as for what you use. I've got this big old bolt I'm going to use for my neck tube bolt. This is what's inside of what I made over here for these. So behind this washer is a very thin piece of this, probably about that thin. I welded it in 4 places to it, and then I took a file and filed it all down, and also a grinder. Got it all filed down. So now it's like a little plug in there. This happens to be the same exact size, the piece I've left over that the neck needs, so I might make 2 more of those, but I would like to use bearings on the down tube if I can, so I might figure out a different solution. I really could make either. It's whatever I'm going to end up doing. The other thing I realized, so when I'm looking for these bearings for the front wheel, these front bearings that came with these tires, the front bearings were the same exact bearing number. What are they? 62 or 6001ZZ. Same exact ones as these, but the inside diameter of these happens to be bigger, which fits the larger of the 2 kinds of axles. So for some reason, the only ones I can find to buy are actually the larger axle, which is good, it gives you more strength. But for some reason, originally when these came on a pocket bike, the front axle was smaller than the rear, with the same number bearing. Very weird. Got all that figured out though, so I'm going to pop these bearings out, pop those in, that way we can use the axle that comes with the GPS front end. And just so you guys understand what I had to do, I took a washer, I cut down that piece of tube to a little thin piece, welded it. These aren't the right sizes, but obviously welded the washer to that, which made my own little bushing. And then I filed it. So I'm going to throw this front end on here, try to get all this set, and see how goofy it's going to look, if this shock's going to work or not. It might not. We might have to have a goofy bracket, which I'm trying to make it look slick. I have other shocks, so this isn't the end of the world if the shock won't work. Alright, you guys can watch me build these forks. I'll speed it up probably. What do I know? First I gotta knock these bearings out, and of course the bearing puller I have just barely doesn't fit, so do it the old-fashioned way. Yeah, I didn't even hurt it, but it was rusty and frozen. It's a good thing we're changing it. Barely even had to hit that one. The other side I had to tap a couple times. There's that. Alright, this is exciting. I was worried about this front end, and I'm pretty sure it's going to work. And if not, we're going to be able to make it work. So that's looking pretty good. Let's see what our shock's looking like. Maybe we'll put this mount on the inside. Have it like that. So that's pretty daggone straight right there. What we don't want to do, I don't think, is have it like this. I think that's too much. Take a look. So it's just a little crooked back here. Pretty daggone straight though. Here's the first real mock-up. See if everything's gonna line up, and it is gonna line up. Somehow we're gonna sneak this pipe through the back. It looks like we're pretty much perfect. If I flip this to the inside, like I talked about, we'll clear. We're also already clearing, but I'd like a little more room. I think if I flip this to the inside, it'll be the best, and it'll hide it a little more. But there you go. Alright, I'm back. Just don't know where I left off on the video yesterday, so I'm just going to go through a couple things I know I mentioned. One is that I made these bushings. As you can see, it's all ground down nice and flat against this washer. Those go right into this hole to pretty much make a step down to this size. So now we got to go cut a bracket off of another arm that I can weld onto here. Then I got to get some pipe that I can slip over that to make a pretty much a housing for a small bearing like this. And then there's going to be a tube that's it, because this happens to be the exact same size. Then there'll be a sleeve that sits up to about there, flush with this. Boom. Weld it around, do it on the bottom. Then that gives us a bearing to put the bolt through, and is also essentially a step down for this tube. Should work very well. So the parts, we need a bracket like this. I guess we're gonna probably hack this right here and there. I know there's another frame around here. Let's get the chopper. So after gathering parts for a little bit, tried a different swing arm. It's just not going to work with this setup. So good to know we got the best swing arm we can use out of what I got. We're going to fab this up. I'm pretty sure the tubing out of old Motovox or MB80 front end is the right size that I need. So I got one out there I'm going to chop up. Also got these motor mounts, or not motor mounts, handlebar mounts. This is, the bottom is actually the same size as the top. It just looks goofy. This is made out of mainly just spare parts. I'm going to try 2 different sets of handlebars, see what we got going there. Got my spacers cut. I decided out of the 2 frames I have that are almost identical, they're just different China made brands, but the frame and everything's the same setup. This bracket's going to be the best probably to use. And I'll probably cut this at an angle. And what I'm going to do is chop both of these off of this. Chop. Boom, 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 boom. Cut this tube it out. See if the bearing fits. If it does, I'm going to use this to fabricate the sleeves I was talking about. There's our bracket. That we're going to weld on. It's probably going to cut across here, taper it onto a flat piece that we're going to cut, but that's done. Alright, that's why you have a portable device. That's a heavy piece of metal too. It's gonna be good to weld too. Okay, there's that. We're gonna cut this guy out still and cut this tube and see if these bearings will fit in these. So let's cut this tube real quick. A lot cooler if it was. We're still on the surface. Handlebars I have are the right size, but I don't want to destroy a good pair of handlebars, so probably going to make a trip to Lowe's for that. Otherwise, let's go ahead and chop this other guy off, keep it going. Alright, there's our bracket. Just going to go like that. Boom. That's pretty daggone perfect. So now I just gotta grind this plate down to fit in here perfectly. Gonna weld all that. Weld another plate up here. And we're done with the seat. Then we gotta get some pipe to finish the front end. Alright, as this jet goes over, we finished our mount. I figured out how we're gonna do this. Got our plate all cut. I'm going to use this existing tab on the plate to help support and weld into this. And this is going to sit on the back just like so. We're going to weld the seam all the way down this. And this guy will weld just like that. Boom. Almost perfect. Should hold a lot of weight that way. It's welded in a bunch of different places then. So, first thing we gotta do is tack this bad boy on. Not too shabby. This is pretty good looking. It's on top of another weld. So now we're going to weld this seam and then weld that bracket on. Flip it, we'll weld it underneath too just to be safe. But for now, it'll be good to mock up. Not bad for welding from home here. So now, next step, plug this guy right there. And that's our mount. There you have it. All welded welded on. Very solid. This is probably more solid than anything on this damn thing. And this just gave the frame a lot more rigidity, because these little guys weren't going to do it. That's why I wanted to weld this to this over top of this beam, because I don't think this beam's going to do it, even though I welded it up and fixed it. There you go. Should be a nice good angle when you sit on it. Spring's pretty, not too crazy of an angle, so should work quite well. We will find out here soon. Alright, so I've got everything lined up. 2 holes drilled for my 2 rear seat bolts. This is all marked and lined up now. Sorry for my new seat. Next day, here's the front end mock-up. This has a bearing in it. There's one at the top, thinner, and one at the bottom. Everything clears. Plenty of steering now. You might ask, Tyler, why didn't you use this piece of that pipe you cut apart? It looked like this. It's because the walls are a little thinner. It's tapered on the edge, and that way I could press using the vise, the bearing into them. Getting the bearings out might be a pain in the butt later on down the road, but it shouldn't be too bad. We'll be able to just knock them out with a really long screwdriver and then replace them. So there's that, or heat it up even. We've got all this set up. This just needs some spacers. We're going to do those once we get the chain on. We're going to be mounting the motor today and all that. This is the mock-up of the brake I've set up. I've got some nylon spacers here so that this sits further over, so that I can sit over this disc. Pretty sure these are going to be the right size. We've got a little bit longer ones if we need to cut them down or modify. Right now it's looking pretty good, so what we're going to do, I might flatten this guy a little bit. It's got too much of a turn to it for what I want. Clearly already upgraded our sprocket. That was just an easy swap out. I've got all this welded like I showed you. Now have the seat welded, or a second seat mount welded. We've got bolts for all that. So actually we can put that on next. So there's that. All lined up pretty precisely. It's looking and coming together. So, like I said, there's a bearing inside of these. I pressed in. I'm going to tack weld a washer behind that to help hold it up, maybe. But other than that, we're going to weld that all the way around right there. And the other one on the bottom. Or we were doing the big one on the bottom, the small one on the top, actually. So we're doing it like this. This is the plan I've come up with. To get this washer tack welded down in here without welding it to the bearing by accident, I'm going to put a glob of grease down in there, coat the back of the bearing. Then I'm going to put a little bit of, actually I'll put oil, then a glob of grease. Then drop the bearing in, tack, 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 probably like 2 or 3 tacks, and that's it. I'll do it for both of them. Try it on the smaller one first. Now y'all know what I'm doing. Alright, let's throw the motor in this thing, see what it looks like. Hope this pipe works. I don't think it's going to though. Oof. Off by a hair. It's okay. Well, it fits kinda. I think it might work. Probably burn my spring back here though. I'm about to throw the chain on this thing and see what happens. I've buttoned a lot of things up here. Let's take a little tour. Got the throttle installed, kill switch, handlebar kill switch. We also have the kill switch down there. What else have we done? Got our whole steering all set up. Everything's tightened down. Clutch cover on, clutch bolt, chain roller. We were going to put one back here, but we're going to see how it does without it. Seems like it's going to clear. All this is done. These are tight. Whole ass end's tight. No brakes. I gotta set that up still. Everything else, seats on. Let's kick it over and see what we're dealing with running wise.